Hello, good afternoon, and good morning if you're joining us from the West. Welcome to the first webinar in the 2024-2025 FCM Collective Series. Today's session is entitled Designing Destinations, Maximizing the Social, Cultural, and Economic Impact of Tourism. FCM is pleased to work in collaboration with our partners Destination Canada to present this discussion today. My name is Evan Clark, and I'm the Manager of Partnerships and Sponsorships at FCM. And I'm so glad to welcome back Destination Canada for a discussion on thoughtful, intentional destination development to take advantage of the opportunities the visitor economy can provide to a community while remaining respectful and custodial of residents and their quality of life. As we move forward with our commitment to reconciliation, I want to acknowledge that FCM's head office is located on the unceded, unsurrendered land of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, whose presence here reaches back to time immemorial. As an organization, FCM endeavors to unlearn colonial mindsets and practices, grow in knowledge, and adapt our ways of working. As we continue to build meaningful relationships, we recognize the historic and ongoing contributions of Indigenous peoples and honor their leadership and partnership in shaping and strengthening communities across the country. I welcome you all to acknowledge the land you're joining us from in the chat if you choose. Before I turn things over to the experts, I have just a few housekeeping items to mention. L'interprétation simultanée est disponible pour notre session aujourd'hui.
Simultaneous interpretation is available for our session today. To access audio in French, you should just click on the little globe icon at the bottom of your screen on the right.
You will hear the live audio today in English. Je vous donne quelques secondes pour faire le choix de langue.
I'll give you a few seconds to make your choice.
Please post your questions in the chat. If time allows, I will help facilitate a brief audience Q&A by pulling your questions from there. Finally, please note this session is being recorded and will be available on demand on the FCM website. I would now like to introduce you to our moderator for today's session. Grayson Chungath is the Senior Vice President of Destination Development at Destination Canada, where she leads the organization's Pan-Canadian strategy for destination development, focusing on strategic partnerships, stewardship of supply, development, and investment. Grayson is no stranger to municipal affairs. Prior to joining Destination Canada, she served at the City of Vancouver for 8 years as Director of Strategic Operations, Planning, and Program Management. As Destination Canada supports the thoughtful evolution of the tourism sector, Grayson plays an important convening role in the country's transition to a thriving, community-centered, regenerative visitor economy that contributes to the social culture, environmental, and economic wealth and well-being for all peoples of Canada. Over to you, Grayson.
Thank you, Evan. I just want to start by saying that I am speaking from the beautiful Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nation, also known as Vancouver, and I pay respect and gratitude to all the nations from coast to coast to coast across Canada. So to dive into our presentation, I'll just set the stage. I will speak for a few minutes and just introduce a little bit about tourism, the role it plays in Canada, and how we can be more thoughtful and meaningful and intentional about how tourism can be managed within the country. After which I will introduce each of our panelists, and each of them will give a presentation of theirs, and then we will follow it up with a Q&A and some questions from myself. And then, as Evan said, he will field some questions from the audience. So with that, tourism plays a critical role.
This meeting is being recorded.
Thank you. Tourism plays a critical role in Canada's economy, contributing billions to the GDP and supporting over 688,000 jobs as of 2024. However, when the visitor experience doesn't allow the community's values, it can quite negatively impact how the guests and residents experience that whole interaction. So today's webinar explores how intentional destination development, sharing insights from communities that have strategically shaped their tourism, while measuring the social return on investment to ensure that it truly matches what the community truly values and what they choose to showcase. Next slide, please. So destination development captures the whole community. How do we welcome guests? Organically or intentionally, do we develop a plan? The relationship between the visitors and the residents is key, and hosting with respect and care, both as we host and as the guest arrives into that region. What sets your community apart? Like governance must align with stewardship. nurturing what makes your community resilient and special for generations to come. Strategic planning also helps identify the key things that you want to showcase and show off, and what is truly ready for the market to receive, what do guests want to see, and what is it that you want to show, and what is it that you want to choose to preserve that you see as true, deep tradition and may not want to share at all. It ensures that we invest in what truly matters for sustainable growth. Marketing should be targeted and authentic, promoting assets that reflect your community and truly identify and attract the right audience. Next slide, please. The tourism must go beyond profits. By considering the social return on investment, we consider what tourism truly uplifts communities, benefiting everyone. What are the local voices, residents, businesses, and government, creating tourism that is responsive to the community's needs? What people are in the process of tourism becomes something they support, not something forced upon them. Economic growth is important, but so are the jobs created and the well-being fostered and the culture preserved. Social return of investment also considers the environment, promoting practices that conserve resources and ensures tourism lasts for all our generations to come. It also is about sustainable infrastructure, efficient green energy transport, improving the tourism of daily life. It ensures that profit stays within the community and fosters local growth and investment. We must think of SRI more as also how it supports us in risk mitigation, like climate change, and building resilience. It also supports regenerative tourism. It improves our communities, the ecosystems, and over time, it actually is a net positive to our communities. Tourism also isn't just about profit. It's about the long-term wealth and well-being of the people and the environment. It ensures transparency, great accountability, and shifting our focus to sustainable success rather than the immediate annual year in, year out profits. Tourism protects what its community is unique to them, its culture, its heritage, and also its equitable opportunities, fostering local pride and social equity in its tourism growth. Next slide, please. I do want to introduce you to something that is done intentionally within Destination Canada. We have been planning 7 corridors aiming to create impactful, sustainable travel experiences. These corridors are designed around how the visitors travel, offering legendary journeys that immerse them in Canada, rich landscapes, and culture. They span 11 provinces and territories. These corridors represent the diversity of Canada from coast to coast to coast, and it has, apart from 2, all 11 are represented. At the heart of this strategy is a regenerative approach, and what that means is that communities have agency about how tourism happens. They have to decide what their aspiration is, how they want it to grow, and not only just that it sustains it, but it actually flourishes the environment and the community. Next slide, please. And understanding the value of tourism. We have many resources and tools. I do want to say that the ROI framework is designed to measure the broader value of investments beyond the financial returns. It assesses the social, environmental, and economic impacts. And there are 2 main types of SRI. There's the forecasted and the evaluative. You can read all about it in the tool that is listed first. And we have many resources that are helpful. I have put the links in there for you to absolutely go and check those out. And with that, I would like to say thank you. And I will now introduce our first panelist. Next slide, please. Sorry, Evan. So first we have Councillor Lisa Dominato. Councillor Dominato is a Vancouver City Councillor, first elected in 2018 and re-elected in 2022. With over 20 years in government administration, public policy, and stakeholder relations, she is a dedicated bridge builder focused on affordable housing, mental health, and community safety. Known for her collaborative leadership, Councillor has had senior roles in the BC Public Service and currently serves on several regional boards, including Metro Vancouver and right here at FCM. She holds a master's in leadership and is committed to climate action, public transit, and civic services. Over to you, Councillor Dominato.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome, or I guess it's good afternoon for some of you. As noted, my name is Councillor Lisa Dominato with the City of Vancouver, and Evan's going to assist me with the slides this morning, so thank you, Evan. And I'd also like to acknowledge that I find myself on the lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations here in Metro Vancouver, and we give you greetings with lots of rain, liquid sunshine this morning. I do want to begin, introduction, I won't quite speak to the slide yet, but that I will be speaking in large part around partnership and event tourism. Grayson talked at the outset about different facets of tourism, and this presentation will really focus on the aspects of governance, understanding community needs, and strategic planning. And so, and really how we've embarked on this in terms of collaboration that's focused on event tourism. Next slide, please. So we thought we'd give you a little bit of a snapshot of the past in terms of how we approach tourism, and particularly around events in the city of Vancouver. So our previous state, going back to 2015, we had hosted the Olympics and Paralympic Games in 2010, so quite a significant undertaking, but we didn't establish a framework of how we would support major events in the city and leverage them for their optimal return on investment. We had a very disconnected system of individual stakeholders going after a variety of events and no coordinated calendar management as to what events should or we should not host in the city of Vancouver. So really, there was a lack of a strategic framework, very ad hoc, and really put us in a reactive position in terms of planning for tourism and for events in the city. And we weren't really looking at identifying events that were a good fit. And our support for major events was generally ad hoc and didn't have a proper evaluation to how we invested and who we invested with. And so that was a great learning over the last number of years. I'll move to slide 3, please. Perfect. Thank you. So this gives you a timeline. It might be a little bit hard to see on your screen there of our 2017 major event calendar. As a destination, we're very fortunate many events approach us to be hosted here. So we had a base event calendar, such as you're seeing here, as demonstrated in 2017, but we're not achieving our full potential and strategically leveraging when events could be hosted in our city to support the local economy, which would be best realized for events hosted in Q1 or Q4. In 2017, we had 6 major sports events on our calendar, as you can see from there. So really the picture I'm painting here is that there wasn't a high level of coordination and strategic planning in our tourism and our planning for events. Slide 4, please. So I'll talk a little bit about our partnerships and how we approached it. It was essential for the city to collaborate with the tourism partners to identify their priorities so we could coordinate efforts to bring visitors and vibrancy to the city in the need periods and not displace tourism that was already being achieved in key core summer months from leisure travelers and the cruise ship economy of Vancouver, which, as many of you know, is strong here. To strategize a way forward to spread resources and the impacts of major events in the city of Vancouver, we collaborated with tourism partners and our local First Nations to identify priorities and measure the return on events against 7 criteria. And these are the 7 criteria that we examined and looked at. A balanced portfolio of events offering a variety of experiences for both locals and for visitors, recognizing many locals want to enjoy their city as well. Seasonality, attracting events in specific need times within the calendar year with a high focus on events that take place October to April outside of the peak summer season. An event's ability to promote the brand of Vancouver nationally and internationally while also supporting local hotel room nights. We also looked at partnerships with events rather than sponsorship. So often, and I'm sure other cities can relate their approach for sponsorship. So we focused on how we could grow and scale existing events to attract international participants and also build an annual calendar of events that would be hosted year to year and not one and done. Events that gave high return on social and community benefits, So local volunteerism, community camps, community ticket donations, legacy commitments. This is another part of, and Grayson touched on this in terms of social impact and environmental impact, is thinking about the community impact of tourism and events. The last two criteria were events that respected the engagement and participation with local First Nations, and events that had return on local small business benefits and supported local supply chain. And again, this is an area that we're continuing to look at more closely as a city, is how do we support a local small business, particularly after, I know we're several years out of COVID, but I think we're still feeling the impacts, and also looking at opportunities for social enterprise to lift people up who are vulnerable. And so that's another area. Slide 5, please. So this moves into, so I've talked to you a little bit about the past. This moves into where we are today in terms of strategic collaboration. So in order to realize our priorities and benefits, we formalize a sport tourism specific partnership, including the City of Vancouver, Destination Vancouver, and the Vancouver Hotel Destination Association, and local venues that were critical to major event hosting, including BC Place Stadium, the Vancouver Convention Center, UBC, and the Pacific National Exhibition. That event tourism partnership is now known as Sport Hosting Vancouver, which attracts, develops, and leverages a balanced portfolio of sports that expand Vancouver's visitor economy, destination brand, and social and cultural development. We do this through establishing meaningful partnership, making smart investments through our collective sport tourism development fund, and taking a tailored approach to event hosting and servicing. Essentially, we've created a concierge service for major events. And really what this is about moving from the reactive to the proactive, is how do we guide and shape event tourism in the City of Vancouver. Slide 6, please. So this speaks to a little bit more to our current state. We shifted our approach to supporting major events to strategically align not just with council priorities, but also the mandate and goals of our local visitor economy by partnering with Destination Vancouver and our hotel industry. With a coordinated approach, we were able to manage calendar conflicts from a variety of events happening in the city all at one time that would impact city services, and we're better coordinated to leverage the events for their maximum potential, for more than just the room nights, but also to create significant benefits and vibrancy for local residents. Next slide, please. You'll see here, this is a headline from the Vancouver Sun. Vancouver's become a sporting event and tourism destination. That was part of our objective in being more strategic in our planning and coordination. Our success and ability to coordinate has been recognized by industry, and the positive impacts were being realized in our local community, having year-round calendar of events that would support local business, draw people into our downtown core, and balance the demands on city services and events that require to be spread into low season when we can handle more capacity. And again, so that's really, as I point to the look out the window here at the pouring rainy weather, we really wanted to maximize opportunities in that off-season, low season. And also, as I mentioned, really to also animate the city for residents who live here throughout the year. Next slide, please. So fast forward to 2023, and this is our major events calendar coming forward. With the formation of the Sport Tourism Strategic Partnership of Sport Hosting Vancouver in 2017, the efforts are now being realized into our events and tourism calendar, with high returns now averaging 12 major events annually from the original 6 that previously showcased in the slides. You'll see the distribution in the calendar of when major sport events take place and the variety of events that we are able to offer in our portfolio. These include taekwondo, wrestling, rugby, running, tennis, golf, skating, biking, and fencing, among other things. And I should note, and it's being talked about quite a bit here in Vancouver, we just imminently have the Grey Cup coming up in November. We've got the Invictus Games next year. We've got FIFA in 2026. And these are just a few examples of major sporting events coming to the city. Next slide, please. So this really focuses on our return on investment. I talked about that earlier, is the lack of coordination, so we really couldn't be strategic. Together with our tourism partners, we've invested $1.8 million into our 2023 event portfolio through our collective sport tourism development fund. We hosted 12 major sport events throughout the calendar year, with a focus on hosting in the need periods for tourism, Q1 and Q4. We measured an economic return of 85.5 million into the local economy and realized over 50,000 participants and spectators that traveled to Vancouver to attend the 12 major sport events. And again, I think I really want to underscore the importance of that economic impact. And then finally, last slide, please. Again, I previously, I'll talk to infrastructure investments here, previously held the role of chair of the Pacific National Exhibition here in Vancouver. And one of the pieces of work that we undertook, which ties into event hosting, is infrastructure renewal. This is just one of many, but we have had an outdoor amphitheater for many, many years at the P&E site, but simply uncovered, just a set of bleachers that are completely uncovered throughout the year, so really limited our use. And the P&E undertook to prioritize this in its capital plan, and the city is a partner in that. And what you'll see is the vision for a new amphitheater that will be fully covered and closed, that will allow us to use it year-round and support arts and culture events throughout the city. So this is just another example of prioritizing tourism. Part of it is the infrastructure component to be able to host people. With that, I'll turn it back to Grayson, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Councillor Dominato. It's wonderful to hear all the coordination and partnership across the city in terms of attracting sports tourism and sport hosting. And I think one of the things that really jumps out is that value of partnership, valuing what the community wants to have come in, but also appreciating that the community also wants to enjoy a lot of these events through the year, as opposed to just competing with tourism or leisure tourism in the summertime. I also appreciate the fact that, you know, one of those things, like I try to make this connection, is that when you actually offer that seasonal dispersion, it also gives the leverage of having employment all around the year, which makes it a very livable city to be in, and hopefully makes it a little bit more affordable. With that, I will like to introduce Mayor George Fontaine. Mayor George Fontaine has lived and taught and raised a family in Flin Flon, which is in northern Manitoba, for over 50 years, and has always embraced the community spirit. With deep roots in the city's history as a mining town, Mayor Fontaine is dedicated to leading Flin Flon towards a strong and vibrant future. Under his guidance, and the city is diversifying in its economy by investing in tourism, aiming to create new opportunities for both residents and visitors, while preserving the city's unique heritage. Please, Mr. Fontaine. Mayor Fontaine.
Thank you. I appreciate being asked to be on this panel, and I took a little more casual approach at getting ready for it. But in any case, we've had my people who are excited to be part of the tourism industry in Canada, but you know, the scale that we talk about is considerably different than that scale from the bigger cities. What we have, as you see our opening slide, is Flin Flon, the water and the wild, and that's very, very representative of our area. We live in the boreal forest. We are basically a community, and I'll go to the map in a minute, but at the end of the road. And so we are lakes, we are rocks, we are outdoors. That's a big, big part of who we are, and that's a big part of what attracts people to this place, as well as, of course, the industry that has created this place. In the first place, we were a mining community, and we're almost at our 100th anniversary as a mining city. Although I'll explain where that leaves us right now. But in terms of our mining, we are still mining all around here, but we have also been a smelting and a processing facility with 700 jobs in our community. Now, that entire processing plant is shut down as of a couple of years ago. So that changes the nature of the community that we're working with. And so that changes also the impact of different things like what does tourism do for us? Sure, we always had tourism here, but tourism was mostly people come to see a little bit of the country is a little different, and a lot of fishing, a few hunters, that sort of thing. But that was basically what it was. We in the springtime and the early summer we had a lot of fishermen up here, and then different things happened, some sports tours and things like that, but it wasn't very much. Now it's become more and more important and more a part of what we need to have to sustain ourselves. And so it's important for us to do that. So if I can go to the second slide, I'd like to point out the where is Flin Flon, because that's, I think people need to understand, nobody ends up in Flin Flon unless they plan to come to Flin Flon. It is not something on the road to somewhere else, okay? And you can see from Winnipeg, which is where I originated 52 years ago, it's nice. It's only an 8-hour drive now. When I first used to come up, it was 12 hours. So that's good. And then, our proximity to Saskatchewan, and you can see where we are there, probably 5.5 hours to Saskatoon and 7.5 to Regina. So people coming from that area, they have to be planning to come here. It's not something like just serendipitous and you end up, well, the odd person does, but that's pretty rare. So our location is important for people to understand what the topography is like, and then the reason for our being here. So I'm going a little outside the slides here for a second, but this the historical part of our town is that we've been a mining community for just under 100 years. Excuse me, just under 100 years. And now that we're still doing a lot of mining around us, but the nature of our community is this, that most of our people working here are working out of town, and we've become, for the period, for the immediate period, a bit of a bedroom community to other industries around. Now, in the process of this, we are chasing both industry and tourism at the same time, because they are, in fact, one and the same thing, along with other industries that we will be working on. Our coordinator, as a matter of fact, is a graduate from business out of Winnipeg, and who's working and helping us to get things going, but she's also our tourism. I guess I could change, because where we are now, and I could go to the next slide if we could, please. And that's, we're talking about positive community impacts from the kinds of things that we're doing. And so we're looking at what's natural to our community and saying, how do we use this as a tourism? And the funny thing about what's natural to our community is you can see the physical parts of it there. You can see people hiking in the bush. You can see on the right-hand side down there, there's our museum, which used to be our train station. Somebody very, very happy about being at one of our festivals, and the sports is shown, and of course our indigenous balance here. And we're very, very, like, we're surrounded now. Here's the next part we need to know about our community, is that I talk about Flin Flon, but Flin Flon sits on the border of Manitoba and Saskatchewan. So I'm the mayor of a Manitoba and a Saskatchewan community, and right beside me, a kilometer away, is another community of about 1,800 people, and that's Creighton. And beyond that, 10 minutes away, we have a place called Denair Beach. So we are the FDC, Flin Flon, Denair, Creighton, and we meet every month. We meet every month to discuss both economic activity and tourism. So that's the uniqueness of what we do. So what I'm looking at here on the slide that says positive community impact, we're looking at things that we do generally as a group. We discuss things, ideas come from everywhere, and we follow through any way we can. So we've got the heritage projects. We've got people doing tours of old mine sites. It's very interesting. Of course, it's a smaller scale than holding the Olympics, but all those little things that are here, all those little things add up. So every little thing that we do is the difference between how we do tourism and how the big centers do tourism as I see them. We have, revitalization. We are doing that. We've got community engagement, and we need to have the community engagement, because I'll use an example here. We have a music festival that we run in August every year. And it's mostly local talent, but a lot of people come from all over. They hear about here, and it's becoming very, very popular. We even had people come in from Quebec to be a part of it this year. And we've had people come in from the West, see our festival, and move here, and actually come and live here. So these kinds of things that we're doing in terms of positive community engagement are all personal. They're smaller scale, but they're personal. We have an experiential tourism starting now, in where we've got different things. We've got one lady who goes around takes people for walks. They pick things in the forest, and then they go into a kitchen and they cook with them. So we do similar things to that, small scale. We have people who have walking in the forest with goats. And it's called just that, walking with goats, and it's popular. Things that you don't think about, small things that you don't think about. So we've got that kind of stuff. As far as culture is concerned, we have more musicians in this part of the country than you could. Well, it's not proportionally correct. It's just the way it is, and we have people passing it down to their families, and so music here is a huge thing, as is drama, and we have a choir here, a community choir that does. That does all kinds of plays, but they've sung in Carnegie Hall twice. They've been in Lincoln Center in New York, so they've traveled. They've sung with symphonies, Winnipeg and Saskatoon, that sort of thing. Men of the Deep. So we have all those kinds of things going on with our people, and we basically are working on those to help people work on here. We also, if you'll take a look down on one slide there, you'll see the hockey rink, and hockey in a northern town is huge. And as a tourism thing, it's big, because even bringing the parents in for a weekend is a big money draw for a community this size. It fills all the hotel rooms, So you have to think of all those little things, and that's how we do it. But we do it, though, in conjunction with our two other communities, Danair Beach and Creighton. For us, we make all of our decisions together so that we can do things on a regional basis. And if I can swing over to the next slide, please, where the regional part is, and that is that we have, like you see our two chairs, we've got a Manitoba color and a Saskatchewan color. And we're very proud to be working together. And we're both working with our tourism companies, our tourism groups in Manitoba and in Saskatchewan. They're playing nice. They're trying to collaborate. So now we're talking again about sustainable tourism, carrying things on so that that we can do things over and over again, but also experiential tourism. And the experiential tourism is a big thing, and we're hoping to be able to create loops so that people are traveling here from somewhere else to do some of the things we do as part of an experience through some of the communities on a loop to get here. So our exposures are different. So our regional unity, as we talk about, is very important. It's not just the three communities. We are also always in contact with our Indigenous partners. We include them in anything we have. We make sure that we have our introductions, our prayers, that sort of thing. We will have hoop dancing and drumming and that sort of thing at almost every event that we have. So we try and do that as well. But we try to access, we try to point out the highlights of each community, and to to try and sell them, and they're all different. So, but anytime that we get somebody here in one community, they're so close together, it benefits all the other communities around. So that's why working together is such a big deal. And I think we could go to the last slide, which is creating a sustainable future in tourism. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to have something that's going to go on and on over the years, that's going to continue. We're hoping to create more industrial changes here and start some big things, including some mines, that sort of thing, and more processing. But in the meantime, all the parts that come with tourism are going to be are going to benefit us through the years, and we're going to continue doing it. So we have to make sure that we work together, that we maintain our environment, that we keep everything healthy. And one respect that I'm very happy about is that our residents are very resilient. They see tourism as, they see the benefit. They don't look up down their noses at people coming here. They're thrilled to see them. They're thrilled to show them around. So we're very, very pleased to have any visitors that we get in the area, and we will follow any path we can to get them here. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Fontaine. It's really lovely to hear the partnership across the provincial borders, because sometimes people can get stuck in those jurisdictions. And to be able to constantly remind everybody about how, shifting, transforming from some things that some sectors that are moving to brownfield, how do you make that into something that is really valuable to communities and is superbly inviting to guests that arrive intentionally or organically that come to your place. With that, I would like to introduce our last speaker, Robert Mercure. Is a renowned leader in Quebec and international tourism, recognized for his visionary approach and managerial success. With over 11 years as the general manager of Thormont Le Chateau Frontenac, he earned top industry awards, including Canada's Hotelier of the Year in 2016. As president CEO of Palais de Congrès de Montréal, he led the organizations to carbon neutrality and record economic performance. Since 2021, Robert is the general manager of Destination Quebec City. He has prioritized sustainable tourism, earning accolades for his leadership and responsible tourism. Over to you, Robert.
Well, thank you very much. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est un grand plaisir d'être ici avec vous. I'm flattered to have been invited to this event and really appreciate the chance to spend some time with you. Next slide, please, Evan. The Quebec City, as you know, in many ways has got a unique situation and history. And it all started with a fundamental revision of our strategic plan during the pandemic, when we started seeing the accelerated trends coming out of the pandemic and the importance of the environment and the social issues that were coming out of tourism. We did a very, very deep dive into revisiting what tourism was all about. We had disgruntled citizens, and we have to fundamentally ask ourselves, if our citizens aren't happy with what's going on with tourism in our city, we really need to ask ourselves some really fundamental questions. And in many ways, we wanted to go beyond what we felt was traditional tourism. And one thing we knew was that there was going to be so much unknown coming out of the pandemic that's continuing to evolve, and we all still feel the impact of the pandemic. We wanted to really have a flexible, agile business model for the future. Next slide, please. The Quebec City, as you know, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and we're the only fortress walled city north of Mexico, so in North America, an urban UNESCO World Heritage Site. And so we're living in the new world, but we have many old world problems from Europe. Quebec City is historically very focused on Europe and France in terms of the way that we look for inspiration and all kinds of different leadership and political and social issues for us as a community. And we wanted to protect, obviously, our heritage and our culture. And ironically, we're also already well known of having protected our culture and heritage with the UNESCO World Heritage Site. But now we saw a whole new level of sustainable tourism and its requirements for the future. So we wanted to make sure that it was really compatible with the future, while we were still navigating a lot of unknown factors coming out of the pandemic. The next slide, please. We really focused on what wound up being 4 key orientations. Collaborative leadership can somewhat be an overused term, but we really wanted to take it to a completely other level with all of the variety of the stakeholders in our region. And we've focused very, very much on that. Reinforcing our relationships on the political and business and social side, and reaching out to previous stakeholders that actually were not really included enough in our previous strategic plans. In our previous strategic plan, we didn't even mention residents, very little about the environment, as well as other key partnerships with the Indigenous leaders, et cetera. So we really started, not from a clean slate, but we were starting from a pretty far place to really look at fundamentally our relationships with the key leaders and key drivers in our region. So we did a key focus on that, and we're very happy with the progress in that area. One of the other key orientations was what we call balanced tourism. One of the major challenges Quebec City has is we have a lot of tourists. We have over 4 million tourists per year. And in Old Quebec, and I'm a resident in Old Quebec, we have 4,000 residents. And the residents have been declining over the years, and it's because of the crowding, the tourism volume, and it's very seasonal. So we wanted to go with a much more year-round prosperity, take a bit of pressure off of the summer. We're also a regional tourism association, so we have several regions, municipal regions around us, and also Wendake, the First Nations nation, as part of our region. And so we wanted to better manage what we call the tourism crowding, if you will, the way that the people will naturally accumulate in certain areas, often that you all know about in various pictures and that you see from old Quebec, and how we can really better communicate with tourists to better disperse them in time and geographically. So better balance the seasons, make them less cyclical, and also encourage people to discover incredible jewels and treasures in our region that are not always well visited. You know, and even in downtown and even in Quebec City, there's not equally visited areas. And so how we could do that with various tourism circuits and the way we communicate with tourists when they're in the destination has been a key focus for us to help better balance the seasons and the geography of tourism visits. The other key orientation was accelerating eco-responsibility on an individual level and on a general level, on a societal level. So we looked at ourselves as a DMO and what we could do to become more eco-responsible and better support the industry individually and collectively. I'll come back to that point, and it's been a big emphasis on us in terms of how we've been investing money and how we've been supporting. We have 850 members in our region, which are tourism businesses, obviously. And so we wanted to see how we can better help encourage them and facilitate their transition at an individual level as well in terms of eco-responsibility, which collectively would help bring us to another level of success in that area regionally. One of the major changes that we did was the way that we approach all of our strategic decisions. I'll use digital marketing as an example, where before in the good old days, we'd do big TV and radio campaigns, and then we'd analyze these campaigns after the fact to see if they were really considered a success. We've built an entire BI team now that closely monitors all of the various data from social platforms so that we're using BI to drive our key investment decisions in key markets. It's enabled us to really have a much higher impact and ROI on our marketing and B2B and B2M investments. And which has allowed us to also invest more heavily in some of our other areas that we needed to look at in terms of our destination. Next slide. I know that a number of Canadian cities have come on board now with the Global Destination Sustainability Index. As we were taking a hard look and the urgency for us to become more sustainable tourism-wise, we really wanted to inspire ourselves and not reinvent the wheel and look at leaders. And certainly Europe has been dealing with a number of the kinds of issues that we're dealing with in our 400-year-old city and how to better navigate traffic flows, etc. So they're very, very strong in Northern Europe and key leaders, over 100 destinations. And for us, a key investment and key inspiration has been the destination sustainability movement for us to look at best practices and how we as Quebec City can evolve. Next slide, please. We see that the GDS index is very, very strong in Northern Europe. They're really at a whole other level. And in Canada, Victoria has been an amazing leader and inspiration for us in their eco-responsibility. Montreal and Quebec City, we're pretty much neck and neck, and we're always historically been competitors. So we love egging each other on and inspiring ourselves. But we're very, very proud of the improvements in our scores overall and really looking at the best practices from cities around the world that we feel share similar issues. We are a port city as well with very heavy cruise ship visitation and other traffic issues that we've seen some of the other cities with UNESCO certification, where there's been threats to remove their certification in other parts of the world. And this is something that we certainly have been wanting to avoid and
or some kind of other experience or transportation.
Sorry. Okay, I'll continue. And so one of the areas in terms of, I'll come back to the what we've done in terms of to help with the whole transport issue and remove pressure in terms of traffic and better environmentally look at this crowd management, so to speak, in our core old Quebec area. Next slide. Trying to keep this under 5 minutes as we're supposed to do. But so one of the other major fundamental partnerships that we did, we wanted to get a world known certification process for businesses and for the region. So we partnered with Biosphere. They also are based in BC. And so we've been able to certify 28 enterprises, and 57 are in the pipeline getting trained as we speak. And just a few weeks ago, we were awarded the regional certification for the destination. A tremendous amount of work by the team. It's a well-known brand around the world, and this helps us organically help our members become certified with key standards in terms of environmental responsibility, as well as for us as a region with our partners in supply chain, et cetera. Next slide, please. Another key partnership was with MT Lab, which is an incubator accelerator lab for tourism created in Montreal and now throughout the province. And we've worked with over 200 startups in creating some very, very unique non-traditional solutions for our stakeholders through this hub, through this pole, if you will, of sustainable tourism through innovation. And it opens up a whole universe of other major players, whether it's with the government, as well as the port and the parks authorities and universities, et cetera. And it's been really an amazing experience on how we can help collectively our partners think out of the box and come up with innovative solutions to either save money in becoming more eco-responsible and use the power of incubator acceleration techniques and startups. We fundamentally have completely rechanged our criteria and the way that we put a ponderation on the way that how we decide on financing whatever we spend our money on. And so now we really have fundamentally put in our DNA the 3 pillars of sustainable tourism. We now spend more money in our marketing campaigns promoting winter as opposed to summer to better balance out the seasons. And we've already had some great successes in that area. All of our key business to business decisions and business to media decisions also equally focus on the 3 pillars, as well as destination development. We're up to over 50% of our destination investments are now taking a sustainable aspect into heavy consideration on whether we finance these projects or not. So through the combination of investment and collaboration with our partners, we are moving the needle collectively through our investments to really do some pretty great stuff in terms of projects that are moving us along in sustainability. Also, in terms of climate change and crisis, we're helping our partners be more resilient with melting slides. There's a picture of in front of the Chateau Frontenac here, where we've helped them now be able to conserve their ice longer, whether it's for the Carnival Chateau or the slide on the Terrace Dufferin. We are building in sustainable climate change infrastructure investments into our criteria as well for our investments. Next slide, please.
Robert,
Yeah.
this is Grayson. We have 10 minutes left, so I'm just mindful of 12 minutes
I'll skip
left.
over this. So we also created a community. I'll skip over that slide. This one, Resident Ambassador, has been something we created with our residents from the very beginning in all of our decisions. We have the residents associations around the table helping us make the right decisions to balance the social aspect as well. Apologize for running over my allotted time. Stop there.
Robert, we all ran over time. You just happened to be the last one to speak and get the brunt of it, but we're all good. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. It's truly, and for truly listening to the residents and their dissatisfaction, and then how to better communicate with guests to be respectful of the residents, and then intentionally focus on seasonal and geographic dispersion to alleviate those pressures. And all the other things that you talked about, like investing in response to all of those things and the way you're measuring and getting the communities organized and the business organized, it's wonderful for you. Before we jump into the questions, I just want to share that each of our panelists has diverse views, from urban, remote, rural. But what is common is that they all are deeply committed with deep pride and care for their communities and are entrenched that those communities flourish. So with that, I will start with our first question, and this is for Mayor Fontaine. So in a natural resource-based community like Flin Flon, how can tourism be strategically developed to support economic growth while aligning with and enhancing local lifestyles? And I know you've shared a lot in your presentation, but if you could just deep dive into this, that would be great. Thank you.
For us, it's some of the things that are happening anyway. I can just use some basic examples when it comes to that. We have a ski club. The ski club is, it's got a road that enters it from the Manitoba side, and you do all your skiing on the Saskatchewan side. So there we go, territorial again. But there's some, and for years, ever since I've been in this community, there's been a committed group of people who've enjoyed that. Now, in order to enjoy that, every time there's a lot of work and maintenance and that sort of thing that gets involved. But they love to be able to take now and host, for example, championships with, say, the province of Saskatchewan, because that's who they're tied to in there. And that brings tourism through there. We have snowshoeing groups that are creating trails all the time. And so they're working on the outskirts of town, which are hiking trails in the summer, snowshoe trails in the wintertime. And so what it is, what I'm saying is that they're enhancing their own situation so that they've got more places to go, but they welcome people to come along. We have our ski trails, for example, are as nice as anything you'll find in the country. It's hard for people to imagine that, but they're so beautifully tended. And so they want to share that. They want to share that with everybody around them. They're happy to do that, and that's what helps them to make it going. But now when we bring to them the idea that now, say, seasonal, and you said about seasonal, cycling is becoming a big thing, cross-country cycling. So they're looking at joining those groups to see if they can convert their trails so they can be used all season. So each thing that they're doing, they're trying to make it work so that it works for the community and it works for people to come inside and take advantage of it. Our northern lights in this country are fantastic. So we have people that have just incredible photographs, as you see that with some of the things that I had there. But we need to bring people in and do that. That doesn't affect our local people in a negative way. It affects them all in a positive way. So sharing our music, because the music is such a big thing here, with the people who come in is always just a wonderful thing. So every time that we work things out that are good for our people, they're good for the tourists as well. And it's wonderful. It's a joy to share them, but it gives you a better, a deeper base to be able to continue doing that. More people doing it, it makes it more sustainable, So everything, we're trying to continue snowmobiling. We have snowmobile trails up here in the wintertime, talking seasonal again, absolutely top notch. It doesn't matter where you go in the world, they're as good as theirs. We have all the same kind of grooming equipment, but we do that, then you bring people in, that brings business in. It's good for everyone. That doesn't hurt us that the trails are used by more people. That helps us. So each of those things, it seems to me, our people seem to be welcoming the visitors, not feeling as though they've been stifled by having them.
Thank you, Mayor Fontaine.
Grayson.
Into mute there, Grayson.
I see that. Thank you, Mayor Fontaine. The next question is for Councillor Dominato. So with Vancouver being a major urban destination, how does the city balance the pressures of tourism with maintaining the unique cultural and environmental aspects that residents value?
Yeah, it's a great question, Grayson. And I think we're actually seeing this around the world right now. Many European cities are facing increasing pressure with visitors and concerns about high level of visitation and how to balance that. Here, of course, we do have natural vista that people want to visit. Often I hear from people that are here because they want to come and enjoy the mountains and the ocean, and this is fantastic. And of course, we ask that people be good stewards of those spaces when they're visiting. But as a city, we certainly have made investments in multimodal transportation. We're one of the highest walkable neighborhoods or cities in the world. And so we have made an investment in active transportation, whether it be our bike lanes. We've just introduced scooters, which I know e-scooters, which is controversial depending on where you are. But also just really making space for people to move about the city without being in a vehicle, and also investments in public transit, which is another topic of national importance right now, is how we move people. So that is part of the work. We're also investing heavily in our climate change strategy and adaptation strategy to ensure that we're prepared for the future. As an example, people love to visit the seawall, but the seawall was heavily damaged a number of years ago in a storm. And so with sea level rise, we're working to protect our existing infrastructure that people come and enjoy and mitigate the impacts of climate change. And so that's part of the balance. And I would just say, we didn't really touch on this, but the other struggle that we have, and I think many cities are facing, is people wanting to come and enjoy the city, but not able to find places to stay. With a hotel shortage, we have a significant hotel shortage in the city of Vancouver, which has led to the rise of sort of Airbnb, and there are sort of challenges with that as well. And so we're grappling with that, both as a city and as a province, is how do we strike a balance of supporting and enabling visitors, but also protecting housing for people who want to live here and make this place home for their families. So a lot of things to unpack. And I just have to say, I appreciated the comments from Robert, because I took my kids to Quebec City in the middle of March and had a snowy walking tour of the city. I look forward to going to Flin Flon at some point in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Dominato. And the last question, and I know we're almost getting into time. So Quebec City has a rich historical and cultural heritage. How does your community ensure that the tourism growth respects and enhances this heritage while fostering economic benefits? And I know you've already touched upon this, but if there's anything else that you missed while you were presenting, that would be great to hear.
Well, I think one of the most impactful things has been opening up dialogue with the residents, really taking their considerations into context in our decisions from the very beginning, which there was areas for opportunity before. Adding fuel to the fire, so to speak, when we're already very, very busy in the summer, for example, was a major issue for us. And I'll echo Lisa's comments in terms of it's a combination of factors of more pedestrian streets, looking at how we deal with parking in Old Quebec, and the bus issue. We have over 40,000 buses a year in a 4 square kilometer area coming in, combined with cruise ships, which we now look much more strategically in how we can help manage busing with not impacting negatively tourism, and through electric bikes and through better walk paths and better interfaces with our apps in terms of walking tours and discovery tours, by bike or by foot, for example, for people with able to visit the city with mobile transportation, active mobility, has really been respectful to the residents and helped relieve pressure points on a number of levels, and not just from overcrowding, but music levels from different festivals. How we can really better balance the needs of everyone, because the residents' experience is a key part of a tourist experience, and we want the tourists engaged and happy and present and living in that region of Old Quebec. And so we've turned the corner in that area, and they're now our active ambassadors. So we feel it's been a win-win-win in terms of balancing tourist prosperity with regional prosperity, and obviously residents are a key part of our culture and heritage, that we want to keep it as a living heritage city.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you. And I apologize that all our panelists had such enriching things to say that we are out of time to actually ask any questions. However, if you do have any, I think you could reach out to Evan, and perhaps he has a way of dispersing that. And with that, I will pass it on to Evan.
Grayson, absolutely. If there are questions, by all means, email us. I'm eclark@fcm.ca, very easy to find. Thank you, of course, Dominato and Monsieur. Thank you also to Destination Canada for your collaboration and support of today's session. The recording of today's conversation will be posted to fcm.ca in the coming days, so please feel free to share it as a resource with your colleagues. I know there were some links shared as well in one of the presentations. We'll send those out when we send an email notifying you that the recording is available. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, please join us on November 19th for our next collective conversation entitled Tales from the Trails, helping build resiliency and supporting mental health and well-being for elected officials and those who work with them. For now, be well, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.